Welcome, guys, back to the I Love Wrestling podcast. I'm your host, as always, Justin Wright. Today, we're welcomed with Chicago's own LiLi Ruiz. How are you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing fantastic. You forgot to say from the streets of Chicago, the streets of Chi-Town,
Streets
Illinois.
of Chi-Town. Yeah, it's crazy because living in the Chicago area, everybody's from the streets of Chi-Town, man.
This is true. This is true.
How
Now
many
I'm
of
from the
your
streets of the suburbs of Chi-Town. So don't tell anybody
exactly?
that though.
Shh, they don't know that.
They don't know. They don't gotta know.
They don't know I'm 2 hours away from Chicago either. So I'm from Chicago.
There you go. There you go.
um,
No, thank you for having me, Justin. I appreciate it, and I'm very excited to be here.
it's a blessing. It's actually crazy because my first CSW show, me and my dad were sitting in the crowd. You were like, I want to say you was the first or second match on the card, and my dad was there. Obviously, I'm their network, and he looked at me. He was like, "You got to get her on. She's going to be a star." And
Oh my
I was like, okay,
gosh.
okay. So
Oh,
like,
thank you
I
so
think
much.
um you might have been the third person I talked to because like I think I saw Warhorse go towards the bathroom and I went to go talk to him, but I saw somebody else and I talked to them, and then I saw you standing there by the curtain, and it was right after I want to say Quintero versus in Anistra,
Uh-huh.
Anestra,
Enestra. Yep.
Anestra. Okay, I'm working on these Spanish names, but right after that match, I went. I was like, look, what do we got to do to get you on here? And
Yes.
we've been battling it ever since.
Yes, yes. I remember that day, and thanks for reaching out. Like that's all it takes, honestly, like just reaching out and connecting and getting to know people. That's what it is. Outside of wrestling, but in wrestling, that's all it is. Like make forging connections, forging friendships, and being cordial with your colleagues too. That's gonna get you a long way because lots of times you don't know who knows who and who's connected to who or where,
Exactly.
and that can get you very, very far in this business for sure. So congrats and thank
It's
you. I
of
appreciate you.
course. No, it's all a handshake away. A handshake and a hey, my name is away, and it gets you far. It really will.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Before we dive into your career, what brought you into this, is there any social medias or anything you want to plug, let people know where they can find you?
Oh, of course. Instagram, Pescadita09. On X, it's La Pescadita Ruiz. On Facebook, I have Pescadita Ruiz. And on TikTok, Pescadita09. So
Okay.
I'm all across the board.
And I'm guessing we can find you anywhere in the Chicago area at any given time at any wrestling show.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Exactly. I will pop up unexpectedly sometimes, but I'm there.
It was crazy because I just saw you at AAW, and I wasn't expecting it. Like I was like, I always see her at CSW. I see her here. I see her there. Um, and I can't remember. You was in a match that night, wasn't you?
Yes, I was in a
Yes,
pre-show match.
pre-show match for
Um,
AAW Live, right?
yep, that's right. For
Okay.
a lie.
Yep.
It's my going to AAW, I think is like it's always been a major goal of mine. For the longest time I was very scared to go. I didn't want to go. My man's been going there, Victor, he's been going there for a while now because he's been wrestling for close to a decade, which is insane to say. And for me, I'm about to hit 3 years in the business in March. And maybe it was like last year. When did he start going? He's been there for a minute. So he would tell me about it and stuff. But I was always that person where I'm like, I feel like I need to be at a certain level to even step in there. Like, I didn't want to like disrespect my man, disrespect the business. I just feel like if I showed up and I sucked, like it's gonna be on my man because they're gonna be like, "Who the hell is this chick?" Oh, it's that guy's girlfriend. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to ever anybody who I'm connected to. I don't ever want to cause any, anything like that, any feelings like that. So it took me a long
100%.
time to go. My first show was in October of last year,
Okay.
and it was an amazing start to an amazing journey there at AAW, which I'm very excited for. It's very competitive, but I don't want it any other way. I was raised to be competitive. I have an inner nature of being competitive. So for me, being in a place that's ultra competitive like AAW, where literal stars and legends were born,
They're on the
Penta,
banners. They're on the banners.
exactly. Penta
Penta,
started there. Like
Phoenix.
to put it in perspective, he was given a shot on AAW. So like that, just putting all everything into perspective, like I'm so happy to be there. So yes, we're working our way to the main card.
Great. I'm going to start at the beginning of your wrestling career because I love this is probably my favorite part of the show. It's called the I Love Wrestling podcast. So when did you find wrestling and when did you fall in love with it?
Well, like I had said, my man's been wrestling for close to a decade now, like 9 years and some months. And I would go to his shows up in Woodstock. He was training at a facility up in Woodstock, so I would go. You know, I never watched wrestling growing up. Sadly, I know, shocker. So I didn't really like understand it. You know, I wanted to support him, so I would show up. I would watch. I'd bring my parents. You know, and it was a weekly show where he was training at the time. And so, you know, I was never like, yeah, I want to do that one day. Like never, ever. And then years passed. He was there for maybe 6 years or something like that. And finally he decided to make his way to the Chicago Indies. When he made that transition is when I started seeing him travel around the Chicagoland area. And I would go to a show here and there for Chicago style wrestling, which is where I train now, in my home promotion. But one day I was like, you know what? I want to see what I have. I want to see what I got. And again, I feel like it's that competitive nature of mine, being a former college athlete, and a athlete just all my life. Like I always wanted to try new things, you know. Um, my athletic background when I first, you know, started doing or athletic stuff was soccer. I love soccer. Soccer is like my first baby, my passion. I was doing that for literally like years and years and years. I never thought I would stop playing. Like I would play like every single day, outdoor, indoor, twice a day, like you name it, I was there playing. I had the opportunity to play in college. I played at DePaul. And then I also played semi-pro. I was on a semi-pro team here in Elgin. And then after that, I got into powerlifting. I met Vic, my man, through athletics. And so I met him in soccer because he also plays soccer, believe it or not. He also plays football. He played collegiate ball and stuff.
Okay.
And so, but he played soccer. And so we kind of like connected in that area. Later on, both of us, he started lifting weights. He was always a weightlifter, you know, throughout high school. And I would always see him do that. I would go and I would do cardio. And then one of our skinny friends was there and he was lifting weights. And I'm like, all right, if that skinny dude can do it, I can lift weights too. Like, come on now. So then I got into weightlifting. I got into powerlifting, which is squat, bench, and deadlift. What's the most number you can do in that squat, bench, and deadlift exercise? For me, I like to brag. My squat is 391 pounds. My bench is 176 pounds and my deadlift is 407 pounds. And I weigh 150. So just to put it all in perspective, I enjoy it. I love it. I have competed in powerlifting. Vic was also doing powerlifting. So we were always kind of like on the same wavelength with like the athletic stuff that we've done. I guess it's like a way that we've always connected. Finally, he's been doing, like I said, pro wrestling throughout all that time. But I think once my powerlifting competitions started kind of winding down because my body was messed up. Like my body was hurt, like my back, my knee, like everything was hurt because, you know, obviously you're putting your body through a lot in powerlifting. You're trying to lift the most weight that you can. It's hell.
It's strenuous.
Yeah, that's when I decided, I was like, you know what, let me try this pro wrestling stuff, which I didn't know, but it's also hell. So it's like getting out of one hell and going into another hell. Because you are literally putting your body through so much. But yeah, and then I found pro wrestling. So that was March 2022 when I started. I remember that first day that I go into training. I remember when I told Vic, I'm like, I want to pro wrestle. He's like, really? He's like, okay. He said, you want to come to a training? I'm like, sure. So I went. I sat in on a training. I was watching them and stuff. And then I tried my first bump. That was so scary. Like everybody stands around the ring and just watches you, like looks at you. And they're like, all right, go ahead, throw yourself, bump. And I'm like, what? Like, oh my God, how? Because when you fall, you want to catch yourself, right? You put your arm out, you try to catch yourself.
Yeah.
This is the opposite. You literally have to throw yourself back. Your feet have to go up in the air. It was just the scariest thing. I almost like cried, like, because I was so nervous. And I was scared as hell. But when I ran the ropes that day too, the next day I could not move my neck. It was so sore, and I had bruises on my back from running the ropes. So like after a while, like my body started to get used to it. But that's essentially how I got into pro wrestling. It's been like a journey, not just on my own. Like it's always been something with Vic, just because that's how we connect. But I think with pro wrestling, it's been amazing because it's like I never knew I could do a lot of the things that I've done, and I'm like, oh shit, like this is pretty cool. Like I'm learning something new every single day.
What really like I know you explained like powerlifting can be strenuous on your body and things like that. Like what really though brought you to the transition from powerlifting to wrestling? Like what was like that defining, you know what, I'm gonna switch.
Oh man. Well, that last year that I was powerlifting, I qualified for national competition. I've
Mhm.
qualified basically almost every year that I've been powerlifting. I've qualified for the national competition. And it's like this really cool, prestigious competition where everybody from the nation goes. You know, you get your top women, top men, and in different weight categories. And I remember that year, I was really hurt. I think that's what it was. I was really hurt. Like my body was really hurt, and I feel like I was kind of burnt out from powerlifting. Because when you powerlift, you don't just you show up and do it. You have to train for 12 weeks, maybe 15 weeks or 16 weeks. So the training is very hard on your body. Your nervous system has to be like 100% like on point. You have to get your sleep in. Like there's a lot of outside factors. Your stress levels have to be in check. Like there's a lot of outside factors for you to be able to show up to competition and perform, and just try to lift the most weight that you can. It's a lot. And I think at that time, like my body, I was training, I was in prep for the national competition. And I remember at that point, I was like, I wanna pro wrestle. I had already shown up to one training to observe. And I think it was like when I showed up that day and I saw all the different people who were in the ring. I met Shelly Benson. She's like somebody else from the Chicagoland area too. I met a lot of people she was the only woman in that class at that time. But like seeing her and seeing like the other people who with different body types, a lot of them didn't have an athletic background. Like a lot of them just were normal people who just like wanted to wrestle. But like I think seeing that made me be like, oh damn, like again, that mentality of if they can do it, like I can do it. But I think it was a combination of that showing up and kind of getting hungry for it and wanting to prove myself, but also the injuries that I had in powerlifting, where I remember one day I tweaked my back. Like I actually like hurt my back during a deadlift session. And at that point, when you tweak your something in your body and you're so close to competition, I think I was like 4 weeks out of competition. So I tweaked it, and at that point, like everything went down the drain for that. In my head, I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna stop powerlifting for a minute. Like I really want to focus on pro wrestling. I really want to grow. I really want to learn, and also my body needed a break. So I think that when you ask me, like I feel like that would be a defining moment for me. No one's ever asked me that,
Okay.
so like it's really hard to like now that I'm thinking about it. But I feel there's a combination of those two things for
Okay.
sure.
Okay. I want to say I try to make you guys think. Like I'm sure we'll cover stuff that other people talked about, but that's my favorite thing is trying to get the little hints of like what really makes us enjoy this, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
Um, you mentioned training at CSW. Some of the guys associated with training there are your Steve Boz's, Jason Hades, Axel Rico.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like, and what was your experience like so far training under those guys?
Mm, really great. Um, because every time I go there, I learn, basics. My favorite is the basics. 3 years in, I'm still trying to make the basics perfect, and the basics theory is another thing, different parts of the match. Like the matches themselves are a story that you tell. That's the most important thing, you know. And I know maybe you've heard that already in the past, and maybe people over repeat it, but it's so true. At the end of the day, moves are great, you know, moves and flips and all this crazy shit that people do. But also, sometimes I feel like wrestling now it has evolved to what it is now with the high flying and things like that. Um, but also it's about the story and how to tell the story, and that sometimes matters a lot more than spot fest, you know, moves here, moves there, starting. Of course, like, yeah, like I want to learn how to do all those things 100%. Like I want to go crazy too, you know, of course, I'm not going to knock that. Um, but I think being able to go to training and learn about theory, learn the story, learn the little details, and also getting those fixed anytime I step into a ring has always been my experience with Boz and with Hades, especially too, with X too. And they have just so much experience, you know, they've been doing it for a long, long time. And you can tell like they have a passion for it, you know, and that translates. And like the beautiful thing too is that like sometimes it's really crazy. Sometimes I have like an existential like moment where like, you know, we have a match or something like a practice match like during practice, and then I like stop in the middle of it and I'm just like I start like laughing and I'm like, damn, there's really a bunch of like a group of random ass people like in this like ghetto ass like training center like by the alley in Chicago or in Franklin Park. Like we're just like in the ring, rolling around, bumping, doing moves, going like making each other laugh. And we're really here from like 6 to 8 p.m. on a Thursday night, just loving this and enjoying this. And people from all walks of life are here because we love it, you know? And I always say like when you're wrestling, like you really have to love it to do it. Cause there's so many challenges and obstacles in this business, and also physical things too, right? That if you don't love it, like it's easy to just let it go. Like if you really love it, you'll go through all of that, you know.
Yes.
But yeah, training with them is the bomb. I definitely have those moments where I'm like, wow, we're really here in the ghetto, like fucking rolling around.
It's great. It's great. It's
Yeah.
That's the heart of wrestling though, is just those moments, realistically.
Yes. Exactly.
Uh Something recently that happened, to jump forward a little bit, seeing as how we're on the Steve Boz topic,
Mhm.
but Boz turned heel for the first time in CSW history. What was your reaction?
I was betrayed. What do you mean? What was my reaction? I was like, damn, he's over there trying to call us out and whatnot. The fact that Boz like Evil Boz is fun. I'll say that. One side of me says Evil Boz is fun because it's like Boz like cranked up to a different
Hmm.
level. You know, I love Boz. I love cheering for him. But at the end of the day, I love to see what else is gonna pull out of his sleeve. You know,
Yeah.
and definitely it was so cool. It was a really cool moment in my
Was you
opinion.
expecting it?
I was not expecting it. No, I was
Okay.
not expecting it. Same with Marche. That
Marche
got me
got
right here.
me. Marche
Yeah,
got me.
that
And
got
then
me right here.
Once Boz came out, I was like, okay, I could see where they might be going. My dad called it though right away. He
Yeah.
was like, Boz came out, he's turning heel. I was like, no, he's
Oh my
not. He's gonna come
god.
help her, and he's gonna attack Marche, and him will fight when Boz is, because I'm pretty sure Boz is hurt right now.
Hmm.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but I'm pretty sure Boz is injured. So
He's a little
like
banged up.
a little banged up. So like I was like, we're getting Marche versus Boz later on, and nope, he got me.
Nope,
Uh,
you thought. That's the power of wrestling. That's the beauty of it. You just never know what's gonna happen. But again, it's like when you kind of pull back and you see the trajectory of people, yeah, it's a shock. Because like Boz has basically held that company for a long time. You know, he was
yes.
champ, Metro Division champ for a long time until my man won it from him. Okay, so what can I say about that? Like, I support my man. Okay, he's not always the nicest, but he did what he had to do. So that was a really cool moment. But even when Boz lost that belt too, I was shocked. I was like, wow, like that is literally like a defining moment, And I feel like Boz turning heel was a defining moment too. I'm interested to see what's gonna happen next for sure.
Speaking of Victor, being not the nicest sometimes at the last show. He was a little mean to you, man.
Yeah, he
He called
was.
out the fans. He called out you. What can we expect maybe at the next show? Like, what do we got to look forward to?
Oh man. Well, he's a little salty for not competing. As any athlete or any pro wrestler who goes through an injury, it sucks because it's like, man, like I want to be doing that thing, and it really messes with your head if you let it get to you. It really, really messes with your head. It really messes with who you are, and it can really lead to dark shit. Like it really can. Sorry, can I swear on here? I wasn't sure
You're
if
all
I.
good.
Okay,
You're all
cool.
good.
It can really lead to really dark stuff, right? And I feel like the last show was a moment for him to reflect. He's had a lot of time to reflect and think about that night when he got hurt, when he went through his injury. It was very traumatic experience. If I do say so myself, I've never, neither of us have ever experienced something like that kind of injury. Knock on wood. Um, but I think that being able to walk away that night gave both of us new perspective. But as you saw at the show, it gave him more of a frustrated perspective, where he says that he wants me to win. And I do want to win. And the only reason is because he's out. He can't do anything right now. He's in the healing process. So he wants me to carry the torch. And I'm down. I'm down for it, and I feel like I can do it. I feel like when given the opportunity to step up, I'll step up. Now, him being a coach or a mentor to me, as mean as he is, it's gonna definitely lead to some disagreements and things, But at the same time, I'm also very pumped. I'm excited because I feel like we can cook something cool. We can come up with some cool shit up in there.
Could we see a more aggressive side from you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay.
100%.
I'll stay tuned. Once again, speaking of Victor, closer to the beginning of your wrestling journey, you actually one of your, I believe, first matchups was against Vic.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
what did that match mean to you? Getting in
Oh
there and
my
tying it up
god.
with him to
I think
throw it
that was
back
my
way back.
second match.
Was it?
Yeah, I think that was my second match. Um, yeah, that had to have been my second match. Oh gosh, it meant the world. It meant so much. Vic is the kind of person who I'm always gonna speak highly of him because he is like he's a wrestling like brain. Like he is just crazy. When you have a chance to talk to him, you will understand what I mean. But he is somebody who has a skill that many people don't have right now. It's called calling it in the ring. It means that you don't have to fucking plan everything and no, you go into the ring with nothing planned, you feed off of the crowd and you just do. And obviously you just do.
Yeah.
And so that day, um, without getting into too much detail, that day when that match came out, when the graphic came out and I was excited, I'm like, man, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Let's talk about this. He's like, no, we're not gonna talk about this. I'm like, but well, we can like plan some stuff, I have some ideas. He's like, nope, I'm not gonna talk about any of this with you until the
Okay.
day of. And then I was freaked out as a new pro wrestler, pulling the curtain back a little bit. As a new pro wrestler, like I want to know what's going on. I need to have control. And I'm at this point, I'm still learning how to let go and, feed off of the crowd and be natural, be in the moment. I'm still learning how to do that. Um, and I remember I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God, like what kind of a match are you going to have? Like, as somebody again who didn't grow up watching wrestling, like it's a lot harder to do things naturally because you don't know what to expect. You don't know how to react when certain things are done. So when that day came, I was thinking about some ideas, and he asked me. He said, what ideas do you have? So we talked. We tried some things before the show, and then when it was match time, he's like, "All right." He's like, "Let's go out there and let's do this." And I was like, "Oh my God, what are we doing?" He's like, "Just listen to me when we get out there. We'll talk." And I said, "Okay." And so he's like, let go and trust, let go and let God. And I was scared out of my mind. I actually came out to his old song for that match because I wanted to troll him a little bit. So I like got his old song from when he used to be in Woodstock wrestling, and I put it on, and I remember he had hit the ring first, so he was already in there, and I wanted to see his reaction. And sure enough, when the song played, he was like, "What the hell?" He's like, "Oh," and I came out and I was like laughing. I was, "Ha, you know, like it's your old song, like buddy." I had to calm my nerves down somehow, and you'll get to understand like when you're in as a pro wrestler, there's little things that you can do to calm yourself down when you're very, very nervous. And one of them is to just do something funny or do something that's going to make you laugh and like calm the situation down. Because lots of times we're like, no, it has to go like this, exactly like this, how I planned it in my head. But you're not just dealing with yourself, you're dealing with somebody else too. And you're dealing with the ref. So there's a lot of different aspects that go into putting a match together. But for sure that night was very special. My parents were like, "Oh my God, like you please tell him to be careful. Like we don't want you to get hurt." And I'm like, "Don't worry." He kept me protected. And you have to have a lot of trust for sure. You know, you have to have a lot of trust with your opponent. And so of course I trust them with everything. And that already like takes away that factor of nervous or worry of not trusting the person because I already had trusted him. So stepping into the ring as my second match ever definitely meant so much. And he has really good cardio. And so I had to keep up. I was like, damn, I can't breathe. I was like, hold on, slow down, man.
That's great. Um, Something I've been fortunate to find out is something like um, that a lot of CSW individuals take a lot of pride in is when you get announced for the main card for the first time.
Ooh,
What
yes.
was your initial reaction when you got announced to be on the first,
Mm.
like to be on the card for the first time?
I wasn't even supposed to be on the card for the first time. Someone else got hurt.
Okay.
It was a scramble. It was going to be a scramble. And I had already done, you know, several battle royals and stuff, and you know, learned a lot doing those too, by the way. And then I remember there's going to be a women's scramble match, and somebody got hurt. And last minute, they're like, "You good? You ready? Like, we need you." And I was like, "Me? Like, oh my god!" And yeah, like I literally had like no time to really freak out about it. I was just told like, I think it was the day of. I was like, by the way, we need you to step in. And you'll hear a lot of those types of stories in this business. I feel like a lot of things they always say it's all about timing. It really is all
Mhm.
about timing. And you have to just go with the flow. Go with the flow. And I think that's still something that you have to learn to do. I'm still learning now to go with the flow, don't freak out, you know, be patient, let things happen. But I remember that day I was very nervous. There was five of us. I've never been in a scramble match. Like there were so many factors that were in that match. But I was in there with women who knew what they were doing. And so like Heather Reckless was in that match. Um oh gosh, who else was in that match? It was Heather Reckless, it was Maggie Lee, Amina Belmont, Shelly Benson, and myself. Yeah, it was five of us. But of course, you know, being in there with people, like I said, who know what's up, they know what they're doing, they know how to put it together. Missa Kate was there too that night, helping out, you know, and so, um, yeah, I was summoned, and so I had to step up, and it was a really fun time. It was very memorable, and to step into the ring at CSW, you've been to the pre-show, right? The lights
Yes.
are on, you know, people are coming in still. There's a lot of activity happening and stuff. But once the main show hits, those lights come off. The lights around the ring come on. Like the center of attention is in that ring. The vibe. Now we have lights, like the really amazing lights and setup. And then the people, there's like this energy and this buzz like from the moment match one gets out, there's already this buzz and this energy that happens. So to feel that buzz and to like be in it, like inside of that ring, is it's a whole nother world. It's a feeling that you never want to let go.
So far, what would you say like if you had to pick one, has been your favorite match on a CSW card?
Ooh, I know. I already know. Me versus Chris Miller in the chairs match.
Okay.
So Chris Miller and I had a chairs match. It meant a lot to me for a lot of different reasons. I haven't shared this with anybody, so you'll be the first. But I actually was injured the week before that match happened, and I got dropped on my neck and during a match, and I literally heard the entire thing go, and I have never felt that ever. That's never happened to me before. Thankfully, I was, moving my limbs, and I was fine when it happened. Thank God. But I had like a crazy pain, like in the back of my neck, in the back of my head, like a crazy pain. And I remember that night when that injury happened, I could not stop crying. I was, aside from the fact that I was like traumatized, I was so scared. I was like, Jesus Christ, like literally, you saw what happened to Soraya Page. Like she just
Yeah.
got kicked in the back, and then that already fucked up her neck, you know? So the fact that like me going through that and I'm fine, I'm like, God, man, like literally. And Vic was with me that night. We actually tagged together that night. And it was towards the end of the match. He saw when it happened and he was like, Jesus Christ. The ref right away came. He's like, are you good? I'm like, uh-huh. Like through adrenaline, I was fine. After the match, I just remember I was so thankful that Vic was there because I was just crying and crying and crying. And I was like, oh my God. Like I had a lot of things lined up at that point. I was going to debut on NWA 76 towards the end of the month of August. And this all happened in August. And then the chairs match was literally the week after that injury happened. So there was like a lot of things that were like lined up for me where I'm like, I was not expecting obviously this to happen, and I was like, holy shit, like, well, I have to like pull out of those things. Like, I don't want to. Like, I wanted to go crazy for the chairs match. Like, I had lots of ideas and I wanted to just go all out. And I just remember that night feeling so incapable and so like almost hopeless, like just worried. Um, I didn't want to tell my parents that it happened. There's a lot of stuff that happened that night. A lot of things that were going through my mind. Again, going through injury. And so when I told Vic, I was like, man, I don't know if I could do this chairs match. It's next week. And he looks at me. He's like, yeah, you can. You can do it. And I was like, are you sure? I don't know if I can do it. Like, this shit hurts. And I couldn't bump. I didn't bump for like more than a month. I didn't bump at all, like on my back. I was doing face bumps. That's it.
Ooh.
Um, and so he was like, no. He goes, you can do it. And of course, somebody like Chris Miller, I love to hate him. I hate to love him.
We all
But
love
Chris
to.
Miller, Chris Miller sucks. But Chris Miller is somebody who also has a lot of experience in the ring. He has close to a decade experience of pro wrestling. He's been doing this for a long time. And if there's anybody who I can step into the ring with and know 100% that, even though I hate him, it's gonna be a fucking good match. It's gonna be Chris Miller. So I want to give him his flowers. And I remember when, I was unsure if I was gonna do this match, and then finally in the end, Vic is like, you're gonna do it, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I had already started going to the gym to move around, do some cardio, like move my neck around and stuff. Again, I didn't tell my parents about the injury. I didn't tell my parents about the chairs match because they don't like that stuff. They're like, oh my God, like it is a cultural thing too, but they're like, you're a woman, like, we don't want you to get hurt. It's delicate, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, I'm not going to say anything to them because they're going to get freaked out.
They're gonna be mad.
Yeah, they're going to be mad and they're going to get freaked out. And yeah, that night came at CSW. It was the night before, and I was like, okay. I'm like, I can do this. I could still feel like the bump. Like at that time, I still felt like the soreness. But I was like, you know what? Let's go and let's do this. And long story short, we did the match. And I remember that was honestly the first time that I felt the energy of the crowd. Like I felt the adrenaline. I felt the energy of the crowd. I felt like when you're in that ring, man, I'm telling you, like, and you're in like, it was like the perfect spot, on the card. Like the crowd was like there, like, and it was a story that we had. Again, the importance of a story. Me and Miller have a really, at that point we'd been feuding for a hot minute. He'd screwed me out of a lot of things. And so have I. But that night I remember when I started, he was beating me up, during the heat. And I remember I like teared up. I was crying like in the ring, like during heat. And I wasn't even like, I was just so emotional because I'm like, damn, like I really could have not been here. I really could have had like a really bad neck injury. And I hate thinking about it. But like I really like being in here is a privilege, you know. And after the match, when we had after that big spot with the chairs, it was a super AA off the top into the chairs. And I won. Barely, but I won. And coming out of that match and that story that we told and just that night was so special to me that I could not stop bawling. I was bawling my eyes out. I was crying so hard because I'm like, dude, like I I'm so lucky to be doing this. I fucking love this, you know? Because again, like who has the privilege, who has the opportunity to be doing this? Like, man, I'm really working at CSW. Like this is like the prime time, and we just had a banger of a match and my neck was fucked up and we still did it. So like just being able to walk away with understanding that in pro wrestling it's beautiful, because even if you are injured, which most of us are, ask anybody in the locker room, somebody's got something going on. No one's in there in perfect health. Someone's always has something going on, but you can always manipulate things and be creative in order to make the match. Like that's the beauty of pro wrestling. It doesn't have to be, no, it has to be like this. Like, no, you can actually throw in your creativity in there and you can protect yourself and you can still put on a banger of a match. So hell yeah, Chris Miller versus LiLi Ruiz in the chairs match. Best match, baby, so far.
So far. Another highlight moment had to have been when you won the HAW Women's Championship. How did it feel to be able to given the title and maybe a little bit of the responsibility of holding a championship like that?
Oh man, I felt incredible. Like going against somebody like Su Young, that's my first name that I ever faced. Su Young is somebody who has just again so much experience. She was former Impact Knockouts champ. Like she has so many accolades like under her belt. And that night to be able to win and to be able to go through such like a complex match, for me that was the hardest match. It was the most complicated one. There were so many moving parts to that match. And Su Young does not take it easy.
She don't play.
Su Young goes ham. Su Young goes crazy. Su Young cannonballed from like the freaking apron into me when I was sitting on a chair. Like, and then I remember my pinky got all bent. And then after the match, I was like, damn, my pinky's all messed up. Is this broken? Like I had bruises all over my body. Like I had like her fake blood like on my clothes. Like I was all dirty and shit. I was messed up. But being able to work with somebody who is at her level and her again trusting me to move the story forward and entrusting me with the women's belt, it meant a lot. 100%. Honorman Wrestling is such an amazing company because they always bring in so many competitors, so many women especially, and they're like boosting their women's division. And so just to be a part of that early on has been really amazing. The talent, the local talent is amazing, and also the talent that they bring from outside is incredible. But yeah, I remember that night I was very nervous too, but I was banged up, but we got through it.
Earlier you brought up the NWA. You had a lot of great matches, a lot of great moments. I'll run through like different promotions you've ran through, but I'm gonna try something different. I'm gonna bring up NWA matches that you got to work. Some of the with competitors that we've seen from the Chicagoland area, some of them that are regulars on NWA. Just give me a brief explanation what that match was like, what that opportunity was like, Uh, yeah, and we'll see where it goes.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm gonna start with a fun one, and that was your NWA Women's Championship match against Kenzie Page.
Oh, I love Kenzie. She's great. She's great. If there's somebody I would one thing I would describe about that match, if you had asked me like in one word, it's chemistry. With
Okay.
Kenzie, I have crazy chemistry. She's just so good. Like she uplifts you, uplifts all your strengths, and on top of that, she is so feisty. Like she is so like grimy, grimy. That's the word that I use to describe her. And that first time stepping into a ring with her was such a treat. I've been able to face her several times, by the way, and every single time I log up with her, it's like we know each other since we were little kids. So
That's badass.
chemistry.
What about another female star from CSW, Miss Amina Belmont? Amina Belmont.
Mhm. Oh, it was so fun. It was to me that match was a lot of we had to do a lot in a little bit of time.
Okay.
And do the most that we could in a little bit of time. And Amina is somebody who has a really fun character.
Yes.
Well, that's kind of her in real life too, by the way.
Okay. Okay.
And so I would say like we're an extension of who we are in the ring. But that match was really creative and really fun, and it was a challenge because again, working like a 3 or 4 minute match, which is the amount of time that we had in the ring that night, is always a challenge because you have to try to cram as much as you can that makes sense, tell a good story in that amount of time. Um,
Yes.
and I think that we did a damn good job. We got complimented after by Billy himself, and it was a really fun match for sure.
That's amazing. Um, Women from the NWA that you've got to tangle up with. One makes quite the waves, and it's you had a triple threat with I think it's Natalia Markova and then Tiffany Nieves. Hmm?
Yes,
Yeah,
La
okay.
Princesa
I'm
Tiffany.
working on these names. What was that like? Because Markova's made quite the waves, and so is Tiffany.
hmm It was a star power for sure.
Okay,
I had to step up for that match. I had to step up. Not to say that I didn't have to do it for the others, but I mean, two, like shit, man, like two people, two NWA stars, like, and I would describe it as I had to step up and also pain because Natalia Markova, oh my god, when
she
she
lays it
chops
in, man.
you,
She
when
lays it
she
in.
when she chops you, that hurts. When she farms you, that shit hurts. When she kicks you, that hurts too. Everything hurts. And it's crazy because, she's like the nicest, most humblest like person you've ever met, the most chillest person. But not in the ring. When you step into the ring, everything goes out the window. And then for Tiffany too, Tiffany is my girl, man. Tiffany is my baby. Like I love her so much. And again, she has a little bit of a mean girl streak, but it's okay. We still love her. And again, like being able to get in there with her and tussle and be grimy, and she's one of the grimiest on that roster, but she gets it done, and she's one of the strongest too. And so it was really fun. It was really fun. I was very relaxed that night because I knew that they both had my back because they both know what they're doing, and as someone who's like newer in the business, it's always just an amazing feeling to rely on somebody who has experience and who also can trust you. And I feel like that night I was able to earn both of their trusts, especially in the ring. So yeah, pain. I would describe that match as pain.
Okay. Somebody that I found really interesting and has like a very interesting character is Haley J. I like being
Oh
in the
my
ring with
god.
her.
Oh man. Haley J. How would I describe the match that I had with her? Oh, there was a lot of factors that went into that match. There's a lot of things that happened that day. I missed my flight, my initial flight to get to Tampa,
Okay.
and I booked like another flight last minute, and I got my ass there right on time, like as right when we needed to be there. I barely got there, so I was like very frazzled, very nervous. One thing you'll hear about me is that I always get nervous. But they say that the moment you stop getting nervous is the moment you should hang up your boots, because that means that you don't care anymore, you know. But being able to work with Haley, like I had met her already, and she's really fun. And when we got paired up that night, I was like, oh my god, like I had to cut a little promo on her, like, and she is never at a loss for words. So I was
No, she's a
like, what
lot
am I
to
gonna
say.
what am I gonna say? Damn, like how she's gonna try to burn me? What? How can I get ahead of that? So it was not just the match itself, but the war of words. But yeah, no, getting in there with her was my first time, like in TV taping, the first of many, and she was a guiding light to me.
Okay.
She was a guiding light to me, that day especially. And after everything that happened that day, with all the fucking craziness with the flights and me being all feeling all types of, crazy, she was really able to help me channel that energy into our match. So she's crazy.
That's amazing. Um, Last one I'm going to throw out there. It was in an arena that you got to say it was a pleasure to work in. Um, 2300 arena. You got to wrestle on the women's world title gauntlet. What's it just like to be inside that ECW arena and get to fight in general? Like, what's that like?
It's nuts. It's nutty. And the way I see it too is that I'm like, damn, I'm really lucky to like be here. I'm really blessed to be here, because there's a lot of people who have not wrestled in that place, in
Yeah.
that arena. There's a lot of people who've been in the business for a long time and they haven't had the opportunity to wrestle there. And so me having that opportunity, like right off the bat, to be in there wrestling, like in my first pay-per-view, trippy. Trippy. I would describe that as trippy. And like that day being in that environment with all those women in the gauntlet, it was a really great time. I met a lot of really cool people. I met a lot of also like NWA people behind the scenes who help run the company, social media people, videographers, photographers, people who run the website. Shout out to Pollo. I love Pollo del Mar. Pollo del Mar is such a doll, such a doll. um but every single person who I ran into that day was just totally incredible, welcoming. They were amazing. But being able to step into the ring in that place was, I mean, knowing all its history and seeing like matches. Like one thing that I've started doing more is studying matches and studying tape, and I've been doing that basically since I started wrestling, but more often now, than what it was when I first started. So I've seen matches in that arena, and legendary stuff in that arena. So like being able to be in there, like I recorded everything. I took pictures. Afterwards, me and Tiff went into the bathroom. We got it because like the wall is in the guys' bathroom, the ECW wall. So we got in there after the show. We took some selfies. We took pictures. I was able to sign the wall. Like, what the fuck? Like
That's,
me
that's
doing that?
badass.
Like that? Yeah, it's nuts. So I would describe that as nutty, because that night itself was just such an amazing night.
Could we ever see you back in the NWA?
Oh yes, that is the goal. That is something that I'm working towards. And of course, like being able to go against like high caliber, competitors like they have at the NWA. The women are incredible and they're so talented. So yeah, I would love to be back at the NWA and be wrestling and be doing my thing, learning my craft and honing it in for sure.
I can say honestly speaking, like out of a lot of the companies, especially in the US, the NWA does a very good job at showcasing their women's division.
Yeah.
So it's some above, like them above other companies that some might consider a little higher on the pecking order. So, like, if there's a place to be involved in women's wrestling, it's probably the NWA.
Amen to that. They do. They do. I really love it. And like I said, like they're women, literally every single woman that they have on their roster is so talented, man. Like each person has their different style. But what I really love and what's like a breath of fresh air is that people know what they're doing and people take their craft very seriously. And as like there's a lot of criticism, with women's wrestling. There's a lot of I feel like the standard for women's wrestling, in my opinion, is much higher, because we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. We have to want to be better, you know,
Hmm.
especially like being able to wrestle women, but also a woman being able to wrestle men. That's also really fun too. When it makes sense, it's really damn good. Somebody who I really enjoy like doing intergender wrestling is Masha Slamovich. I love her and I love how she's able to do that. That's what I want to do. Because I've always been somebody who I'm not just like, oh, you know, I'm just gonna stay over here. Like I've always wanted to roll with the boys, you know?
Okay.
And it's always been fun for me. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, which is okay. But at the end of the day, being able to hone that craft and do that is so fun. But yeah, 100%. The women in the NWA are beasts in their own right.
What would you say, like 20, like what would you like to get out of 2025? Like, what's your goals?
My goal this year, I have several.
Okay.
The first is I want to be assigned talent at a major company. The second, I will be assigned talent at a major company. Putting that, manifesting that, baby.
You
The
will be.
second,
That's why I got you
amen.
on here. I knew it.
Amen. The second one is I wanna be able two things. I want to be able to get into a match with my opponent or opponents and have a banger of a match and know in my heart that I gave it everything and that I did what I needed to do.
Mhm.
So I have a banger of a match. But of course, that includes a lot of different parts. It includes me taking accountability for my craft, training more, hitting the gym, hitting my cardio, making sure my conditioning is on point, making sure my body looks good. Of course, it's all about how you look too, you know. My nutrition, my stress, my sleep, all of those factors go into the type of athlete that I am in the ring. So I have control over that. My character, of course, developing my character more, getting to know more of who I am. And so honing all those areas is gonna push me to be able to do that in every single match where I'm like, fuck yeah, like I gave everything that I had, and I know that I fucking killed it, you know. And the second thing to that, the second part to that, is being able to walk away from a match and having my opponent say, okay, like I see something here. And I had a banger of a match with this person. Maybe the match wasn't a banger, right? Maybe it wasn't like the best match, but having that person still say, "Oh hell yeah, okay, cool." Like I felt her out. Now match two, we know what we did wrong. Match one. Now when we have a match two together, we can come back and we can try some new things. So doing that, I think definitely getting into the ring and being able to say that. That's what I want. And I guess that would be like summed up in having matches that are I want to get my reps too, of course, but having like high caliber reps with
Okay.
people who know what they're doing and who could teach me. But I also feel like at the end of the day, like any opponent that you step into the ring with, you'll learn something, whether it's somebody who has been in the business less time than you, or of course somebody who has been in the business and who has 10 years experience. You're gonna learn something from every single person. So yeah, that those would be my goals for this year for sure.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you one last question, and then I'll let you go. And I don't really consider it a question. It's more like if you had any advice for somebody else trying to get in this business, trying to do what you do, what would that be?
My advice would be to try it, but try it, but don't take it for granted. This business is a very hard business. In the 3 years time that I've been here, I've learned a lot and I've been through a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of stuff. I've gotten to see the grimy side of this business too, which it exists in all businesses, of course, all kinds of places, right? Not just wrestling, not just pro wrestling. But that's why I say you have to love it to do it. You really do. And you have to find yourself your core group of people who is going to keep it 100% real for you. Because if you have people who surround you who are yes men and who tell you, yes, you're so amazing, you're doing so great, and blah blah blah, you should be doing this, you earn this, you deserve that, you deserve this. That's not going to help you, because if if perhaps you need more training, or you need to fix something in your diet, or you need to get stronger, you need to hit the gym or something, but you have those kinds of people surrounding you, that's not going to get you anywhere. They're just going to lie to you. And you have to be aware of that. So you have to find people who are in your inner circle. It doesn't have to be a gazillion people, just like 2 or 3 people who are in your circle who can tell you, hey, yeah, that wasn't a very good match. You got to work on this. Or, hey, that didn't look good. You got to do it like this next time. And you being humble enough to not talk back and to take in the information and to grow with it. And also, you have to keep it real with yourself too. And if you really want to do this, you have to put in the work and you have to put in the time outside of the ring in order to be successful. And the last thing is, um, believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. I know it's like cliche, but if you're your own biggest fan, man, that's going to take you so many places, because all it is a handshake, man. The networking aspect is so important. And if you have that confidence, like you, Justin, like that confidence, or that ability to be able to introduce yourself to somebody, you don't know how far that's going to take you in this business. It's going to take you very, very far. So yeah, that would be some small snippets of advice from La Pescadita this night.
All right. Just want to say thank you once again. This was fun, and we're definitely have to do it again. So
Yes. Thank you
maybe
so
a
much,
few
Justin, for having
months,
me on.
maybe a few months or something, we can get an update. Throw you back on here, see what's new, see where you and Vic are at, what's going on in CSW. Maybe you can have some gold by then.
Hey, I'm down for that. You never say never, as they say.
No, thank you so much. It was my pleasure to have you, and like I said, I can't wait to do it again.
Yes, thank you, Justin, for your time today. I appreciate it. I also had a lot of fun, and I'm very excited to hear this when this comes out.
Sounds good. I will leave this at talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you.